Good morning. I'm Mary Brinton, Director of the Reischauer Institute of Japanese Studies at Harvard University and Reischauer Institute Professor of Sociology. In discussions of gender equality in every country, there is an emphasis on women gaining access to the same opportunities and resources as men. In other words, policies and reforms usually focus on making women's lives more similar to men's. This makes sense in many areas of life, including politics, health, and education. But how about employment? Here, a fact that is often overlooked is that the conditions of men's work lives make it very difficult for them to have a reasonable balance between paid work on the one hand and unpaid work and leisure time with family on the other hand. If men's lives continue to be highly work-oriented, and if gender equality policies continue to focus on how to make women's lives more similar to men's, it is likely that both men and women will have very little time to spend on family and caregiving. Is this the type of society we want in the 21st century? East Asian societies are a good example. Japan and South Korea have the largest proportion of employees working very long hours. It's not surprising then that men's contributions to housework and childcare in these societies is very limited. In these two countries, the proportion of women's total work time that is unpaid is 5 times what it is for men, and this is much greater than in all other OECD countries. Japan and other East Asian societies now have birth rates that are far below the average for the OECD. Increasing numbers of young men and women are rejecting family life by not marrying at all. These trends are much less common in the US, Northern Europe, and many Western European countries. In these societies, the average number of paid work hours is generally lower, and the proportion of men's work time spent on housework and childcare is much more equal to women's than in East Asian societies. Also, in Western countries that have paid childcare leave systems, the proportion of men who take leave is closer to the proportion of women who take leave than in Japan. The most gender equal societies are ones that have created policies based on the idea that men and women should have equal rights, not only to a meaningful and satisfying work life, but also to a meaningful and satisfying family life. It is time for governments and private firms to recognize that for societies to prosper in the 21st century, policies need to be more supportive of men's lives becoming more like women's rather than the reverse. Otherwise, I fear that the type of gender equality we achieve will be based on the idea that both men and women should work like men rather than trying to have more balanced lives. Thank you very much, and I wish you a wonderful conference and wonderful discussions.